Alrighty, good morning everyone. Thank you for registering and coming along for this webinar. Just making sure that all our settings are all good. When you come on, if you could just mute yourself just so that we have really clear sound for everybody who's listening and for the recording. So this is a free webinar that I have created for the month of January, and it's on a very loaded topic. It's on a topic that I have honestly kind of avoided doing a webinar on, or talking about in a collective manner, because it's very vulnerable for a lot of people. It's very individual. Obviously, the relationship dynamics between every couple is different and unique to them. So it's kind of hard to put a blanket approach to this issue. But it is an issue, and it's a really fucking common issue. And in fact, it's the most common thing that stops women from having a yoni massage or from becoming yoni massage practitioners, because there's this dynamic in their relationship where when their partner says no, and here I am specifically only talking about male partners. I'm not talking about female-female relationships. This is specifically related to men. So the common thing that stops women from stepping forward for this work is their partner saying no. And that is enough to stop them from going forward. So there's obviously a conversation that's not happening between the two of them, or a dynamic that's not really working in that relationship that's strong enough that stops her moving forward in the way that she feels she would like to, and do the work on herself that she would like to for herself. Because of course, for anyone who has had a yoni massage, or for anyone who is becoming a practitioner, the ripple effect is huge. This work doesn't just impact you, it actually benefits everybody around you. So having a yoni massage doesn't just benefit you, but it would also actually benefit your partner and your sex life and your intimacy and your relationship in general, and for its highest good, whatever that may be, which we don't get to determine. But that's a beside point. So I'm not going to talk about today why you would have a yoni massage, because I feel like a lot of women who registered for this already have kind of figured that out. I know why I want one, or I know why I want to experience it. We're now onto the next hurdle of my partner said no. So I'm not really going to touch on that. If you want to know why, you can go and check out the YouTube video of what is yoni massage and why women would do it. So this topic is, I think there's a lot to it. There's a lot to unpack. And I think one of the main things that we need to begin with is what you having a yoni massage means for your partner. So when women, I get emails all the time, I get messages on social media all the time, I have client calls with women who just can't get past this. I want to have a massage, but I talked about it with my partner and he said no. Or I'm going to have a massage, but I'm not telling my partner, which is a road that a lot of women tend to take. And 99% of the time, it bites them in the ass down the track, because they have the modality, they do the work, and it creates the ripple effect. And then they've got to deal with the aftermath. Their partner's like, what the fuck have you done? And she's like, well, I got a confession to make. And he's like, what the fuck? Ultimate betrayal, explosion. So it's always, always, always best to have the conversation before you do the work. Before you sign up to have a massage or to become a practitioner, you must have the conversations beforehand. That it's vital. It's respectful to him. It creates a space of open communication in your relationship, and it's about integrity. Who are you as a woman? And actually, if you're not having these conversations in a relationship, is that a relationship you want to be in? So what does it mean for him if you have a yoni massage? Absolutely, it's respectful, definitely. And if you want to, if you can put anything in the chat, in the comment section of the chat, and I will read it out to them if you've got questions. This is being recorded, so if you don't want to unmute yourself and jump on camera and talk, that's totally fine. You can just put in the chat box and I can answer the questions there as well. So what does it mean for him if you have a yoni massage? And, you know, this response, no, is coming from a place of fear. That is the most important thing to remember here. It's not coming from a place of anger or selfishness, or maybe it is, but all of that is a mask for fear. Ultimately, that's all this is. This no response is fear. So the first thing is to really have consideration with where he's coming from right now. He's speaking from a place of fear, often terror. So you really need to have a place of compassion and understanding for that, for him, because this is not about you. Right then, in that moment, when he is saying no, this is not about you. This is about him. So it's having compassion to be able to hold that space for him, to then be able to unpack, process what he's feeling, why he's objecting. What does it mean for him if you do this? So really starting to look at, okay, so why is it a no? And, you know, this is where it becomes different for each and every one of you in your relationship. And the common ones that I've heard women and they've said is that, you know, it's a cheating. It's the equivalent of cheating. So again, that's coming from a place of misunderstanding. What that means is he actually doesn't have enough information about what a yoni massage is, and most importantly, why you want to do it, for him to be able to make an accurate evaluation of the situation. Because a yoni massage is not going off and having a love affair with a prostitute. Because yes, you're paying someone for a service, but it is not a mutual sexual exchange. Therefore, it's not prostitution. It's not a two-way intimacy exchange. For practitioners, this is a service. This is a modality that they are offering, and they do not receive sexual gratification from that process. So it's not about experimenting with lesbianism. It's not about having an affair. It's not about any of that stuff. Yes, it is a sexual modality, but it is sexual for you in the way that you need it to be. It's not for the practitioner. They are not a mutual consensual partner in a sexual activity. Not at all. And that, I think, is one of the most common misconceptions, because our society has connected vaginas with sex. That is their sole purpose in society's eyes, especially in the patriarch's eyes, which is one of the reasons the birth system, the maternity system, has become so fucking medicalized, because women's vaginas have no purpose other than to let out a baby. Therefore, what does it matter what happens to it during the process, right? So it's all part of this underlying subconscious belief that we have as a society that has completely sexualized our vulva, our pussy, our yoni, our vagina. So for him to have you say, I'm going to go and have someone massage my vagina, is like, whoa, that's a sexual part of you, and you're going to go and have somebody else do my job? So it's very challenging for his masculinity, it's very challenging for his ego, and it's very challenging for his subconscious belief patterns that he may or may not be aware of, but he has, which is why he's feeling the need to object in the first place. So it's really important that you understand these things as he is having this conversation with you. So the most important thing that you need to give him is information. What actually is a yoni massage? And you need to be really clear on that yourself before you consent to going and having this modality. That is so important. So if you're looking for a practitioner, you need to be able to see exactly what is going to happen in that session. I mean, step for step, word for word, exactly what's going to happen in this session. There is no mystery in this modality. And that is so important. That is a huge part of integrity on the part of these practitioners, that they need to give you all of the information. You're going to come into the room and we will sit down, and first we'll have this conversation and I will ask you these kind of questions. And then I'm going to explain to you exactly the process of what's going to happen from there. You need to know that, and then you need to be able to explain that to him. The next part that you need to be able to explain to him is often the hardest part. Why you want to have the yoni massage, because a lot of women need to get really fucking clear on that first within themselves. Again, you need to understand why you want to have the yoni massage, and you need to be able to articulate that for yourself, but also to have this conversation with your partner. And if you don't have a dynamic within your relationship where you can sit and openly, vulnerably, and honestly talk to him about why you want to do this work on yourself, there's bigger issues at play. Okay, this is just opening the lid on something else that is deeper and existing within your relationship. And maybe that's the whole purpose of this. Maybe that's why you want to step into a yoni massage, because you want to crack this open. You want to take deeper levels to your relationship. And this is the perfect way to do that. But you have to get vulnerable. You really have to get vulnerable, because remember, he's coming from a place of fear. And for you to meet him there, you have to get vulnerable. This work is not about surface level, nice, fluffy experience. Women who step up for yoni massage and step up to become practitioners are buying into something that is so fucking great that it takes a lot of courage. It takes a willing woman to get really fucking vulnerable and honest with herself. And that affects your relationships. So you need to have these conversations with him. You need to be really honest with him about why you want to have this. Okay, and women do this for all kinds of reasons. As I said, I'm not going to go into that. But if exploring your sexual energy, or exploring your ability to orgasm, or exploring your inability to orgasm is something, and that's something you haven't discussed with him, you need to have that conversation before you go for a yoni massage. Because a yoni massage is going to help with the energetic and the physicality of it, but it's not going to help you in your ability to sit and have a conversation with him. Your practitioner will encourage you and give you tools and all of that, but you actually have to do that. That's your responsibility as the woman. So if you want to have a yoni massage, say for example, because you've really struggled to orgasm and your sex life is pretty average and you're not comfortable communicating, I don't like it when you do that, or actually that position doesn't work for me, or if you could just do this for a little bit longer, I might get there. If that's why you're having a yoni massage, you need to have that conversation with him. You need to be really fucking open, vulnerable, and honest with him. Actually, when we have sex, this is what's happening for me, and this is what I'd like to be happening for me. So you need to really start there with him, because that makes him feel included. It opens communication. It lets him know that it's not about him, because remember, this is challenging his ego. This is challenging who he is as a man. So by owning your shit, you're letting him know the problem's not with you. It's okay. So it comes back to that open communication and what it means for him, for you having a massage, and just really owning your stuff and really openly communicating with him. And if that terrifies you, then again, it's just a highlighter of an issue in your relationship that you're ready to address, because it's coming to the surface. It's there. It's blinking in your face. Come on, let's do this. So one of the other comebacks that I get told a lot that men say is, fine, you go and do that, and I'll go and have a massage down at the place and have a happy ending. And it's like this, 2 for 2, tat for tat kind of approach. It's like, well, you're going to go and fucking get rubbed off by some woman, so I'm going to go and do the same thing. And again, this is coming from a place of complete misunderstanding. He doesn't have enough information. He doesn't really understand what it is you're doing and why you're doing it. So to come back to that statement, which happens all the time, you need to be able to really explain to him, no, this is what I'm doing. This is what happens in the process. And this is why I'm doing it. Always comes back to those two things to start to allow him to address his fear about this. You need to be really clear on those two things: what it is and why you want to do it. The second is really, really fucking powerful. Like, that's a non-negotiable. And remember that he is coming from a place of fear. You need to be able to allow him to express whatever that is, whatever that looks like, because he is operating from a subconscious belief that is challenging him. So we all know fear is not easy to meet. So he is going to get angry. He's going to assert his alpha in the relationship. And he is going to really express his fear in many, many different ways, as men do, because we know, again, we live in a society where men aren't equipped with the tools to emotionally express themselves. So he's going to struggle with that. So it's going to require a lot of patience, and it's going to be tumultuous. There's going to be arguments, and there's going to be tears, and there's going to be open conversations and communication, and there's going to be light bulb moments, and there's going to be laughter and all kinds of things. And you need to be patient and allow space for that, Because when you push a struggling alpha male, you're going to hit a brick wall. You're going to. So you've got to allow him to safely express his fear around this. So really allowing him to get vulnerable and asking him, what are you scared of? Actually asking him that question. Acknowledging that this is fear. Acknowledging that he's coming from a place of fear. What are you most afraid of if I have a yoni massage? And really getting honest with him and allowing him to realize that there's a fear here, that it's not about anger, that it's not about betrayal, it's not about cheating, there's a fear. What are you most afraid of if I have a yoni massage? And if you can be vulnerable, you give him permission to be vulnerable. So by initially starting with why you want to have a yoni massage is showing him vulnerability, which then creates a safe space for him to get vulnerable about why he doesn't want you to, or what he's scared of if you do. What if I then become inadequate? What if I then can't sexually please you because you go and have this amazing experience with a professional and I can't replicate that? That makes me an insufficient lover. What if you go there and you have an amazing experience and you realize you want to leave me? What if you go there and you realize you're a lesbian? All of these things can be very real fears for these men, and you need to allow him to express it. You don't need to fix it. That is not your job. But you need to allow him space to verbalize it, to realize it for himself, and to then sit with that for himself. One of the things that really feeds our subconscious belief about the vagina only being there for sexual purposes is this undercurrent of ownership. Now, this is a very loaded subject, and a lot of people feel that this doesn't relate to them, but the reality is monogamy comes with a sense of ownership. You enter into a monogamous relationship with this subconscious belief that you then own that person and they own you. And this has been fed from many, many, many different things. And healthy or not, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying that that's the reality of it. And, you know, marriage, for example. Marriage came around initially from property ownership. The easiest way to design property contracts was to create two people who were connected contractually and could then have dual ownership of a piece of property. So back, of course, in the days of colonization, when wonderful white people were claiming land and owning land and dividing land, and the easiest way to contractually make it happen was to have two people connected. And that was where marriage then came about, because it was much easier for two people who were contractually together to own a piece of land than two people who weren't contractually connected. So therefore marriage was born. So it literally came about through ownership. And what then happened is, because we were in a patriarchal time, the kind of the lead owner, if you like, became the masculine, became the man in that relationship. And that then translated into ownership of the woman. And you can see that in many, 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 many cultures, not just white cultures, in a lot of Muslim traditions, in a lot of Asian countries. The marriage literally translates to ownership, and that the woman then becomes the property of the man. And, you know, you can look at our developed 21st century life in the modern Western world and say, that doesn't exist, that's not real, we don't, you know, my marriage isn't about that. But I challenge you to look a little bit deeper into that and actually explore, what does monogamy mean? And how is that being expressed in your relationship? And, you know, this is a massive subject that is going to challenge people and is going to cause controversy, but monogamy has this basis of loyalty, and loyalty is different to ownership. And I think that's where we've got our wires crossed. Ownership has been interpreted as loyalty. And, you know, when you enter into a relationship, you have the choice to be loyal to someone and to devote yourself to them and to connect with them on a physical, emotional, mental, and soul level and be with them and be loyal to them. Or you can enter into a relationship with someone and own them and be owned by them and become codependent. And that ownership has really led to an underlying conditioning of what our relationships have come, even today. Even in the most fucking conscious relationships, I have seen the most incredibly empowered women and the most conscious men be in relationships with this dynamic of ownership and this dynamic of fear, and women who are not able to move forward with what they want to do because of this dynamic. So again, what this highlights, this whole entire topic, this whole entire webinar, the fact that your partner said no is just a big fat fucking highlighter that there are issues in your relationship. That has to be said, and you have to get fucking honest with yourself. I'm not a relationship counselor. What your relationship is like is none of my fucking business, and I'm the last one who's going to give you advice on what to do. But what this shows you is, if you are in a relationship where you feel that there is something really fucking powerful that you want to step into, that you want to become, that you want to experience, and you express that to your partner and they say no, that highlights a much deeper, bigger issue here. This then goes beyond Yoni massage and beyond becoming a practitioner. There is so much more there to that. And when you can start to realize that, then you can work on it. Then you can actually start to address it and create the relationship that the two of you really desire, or leave the relationship that you really don't desire to be in anymore. And, you know, I think it's not easy. I'm not saying by any means that this is easy, but you really need to look at what this means. What does this actually represent? Yes, he's coming from a place of fear, but how much is that fear actually impacting your relationship, your communication, your honesty, your sex, your intimacy, your energetic connection between the two of you? How is that fear really impacting you? You know, it's very common for women to do the spiritual work now, and men tend not to so much because it's, you know, it's not cool. It's not the masculine thing to do, to go and get fluffy and woo-woo. And so often they're getting left behind, and these relationships, women are growing and changing, and then they're getting frustrated that these men aren't keeping up because they're not doing the work. But we really have to understand where they're coming from, and that's a part of spiritual growth, is compassion, but not at your expense. So that's so important to remember. It's, you must have compassion for him, but not at your expense. And only you know where that line is. Only you know when you're stepping over it and not acting for your highest good, and when you are. Only you really know that. And you do know that. You're sitting there saying, oh, but it's so hard and I don't know. You do know. You just don't want to hear it because it's asking you to do something difficult. It's asking you to maybe become really fucking vulnerable and honest in a relationship that you have never done so. Or maybe it's asking you to leave. Or maybe it's asking you to do something for him in return that terrifies you, but will up-level your relationship, which is fucking amazing. There's so many options of what this is and where this could take you. So please, if you have any questions or even just comments, feel free to put them in the chat box, and I can speak to them, because I know that this is potentially activating, and I know that you're all here because in some way it speaks to you. So please feel free to speak, and you can just, the chat box won't appear in the recording, so it will be completely anonymous if you're not comfortable having that known that you're asking that question. So going back to ownership, where I was going with that is, who owns your yoni? Pretty fucking simple question. And you think it would be a simple answer, but it's not. So when you have signed up for that relationship, married or not, it's irrelevant. Energetically, you're there. Who owns your yoni? Who owns your body? Who owns your sexuality? Who owns your sexual expression? Who owns your yoni and says what you can and can't do with it? If it's not you, there's an issue. Again, it's a highlighter for what's happening there. And, you know, this is very specific for women who want yoni massage. A little bit different for women who want to be practitioners, but in terms of your yoni and what you do with it, who owns that? Who says what you do and don't do with it? And if you're in a relationship, if you're in a dynamic with someone there should be absolute 100% respect and integrity between the two of you, and always have a mutual consensual agreements about what's happening. Mutual being the key word, okay? Even though it is your body and your yoni, and you are loyal and energetically in a relationship with someone, there needs to be a respectful conversation about, how does it make you feel if I do this? How would you feel if we were to do this? How would you feel if I masturbated in front of you? How would you feel if I had a yoni massage? How would you feel if I did this? It's all about that consensual conversation to reach a mutual point of agreeing to move forward in this way. Because if you're doing personal growth, it's going to impact your relationship. So it's both of you moving forward. And there needs to be a common ground. It's not about compromise, but a common ground that you can both meet at and feel okay in that level of vulnerability. It's not being comfortable with, because we all know comfort zone doesn't get us fucking anywhere. But feeling where you can grow from and stretch from and really push those boundaries in the comfort zone together. Because, and that's why women who don't tell their partners and go and have a yoni massage then suffer the repercussions later, because it does create change. It does fucking impact you. It does push those walls of that comfort zone, sometimes fucking miles. And you then have to go back into that relationship and function where he was before, but you have now completely changed. So I think it's a real disservice to the relationship to go and do this work without talking to him about it first. Because the only reason you're not talking to him about it first is because you know he's going to object. And meeting that objection means meeting something in yourself and getting another layer of vulnerability. And you have to do that. You owe it to him and you owe it to yourself to really grow and change with this work. Because if you don't talk to him about it and you go and do it, it is going to have a negative impact on the relationship. And that's not why you're doing it. That's not why you're signing up for this work. You're doing it because you want to create positive change in your life, and you want to create the change that's going to feed both of you in the best possible way for your highest possible good. So you have to start by getting fearless. You have to start by getting vulnerable and doing that for him and for you. So what to say to him when he says no? I think, what are you most afraid of if I go ahead with this? You need to really clearly and articulately be able to explain to him what a yoni massage is. And you need to really clearly and articulately tell him why you want to do it. And then, you can then look for resources to show him and share with him about it. So, you can send him to my YouTube channel. I have the last webinar I did was a what is yoni massage, and it gives a really clear explanation of what a yoni massage is. So that's a good basis for him to start getting an understanding of what actually this modality is, which is a question came through. What if others, men, don't believe that yoni massage can be sacred work to up-level spirituality? Yeah. So the thing is that everybody has different beliefs and understanding. And, a man cannot completely, fully comprehend what a yoni massage is because he doesn't have a yoni. He can't go and have one and find out for himself. He can have a lingam massage, which is the male equivalent. And, I think that is something that's very powerful for people. If you don't understand, you can experience it for yourself, but not all men, particularly if they're having this objection in the first place, they're not going to be open to doing that. So I think we need to find a place of respecting people's beliefs. You can't change the way someone thinks, feels, or believes. It's not your job. It's none of your business, really. Realistically, the way that they think, feel, or believe is none of your business, because it's not your job to change it. They are either willing or they're not willing to change it, and their fear is going to dictate how concrete they are in that, how concretely they're going to stand firm in that fear and come up with any justification, any reason why. So it's not a fucking spiritual thing. It's just a sexual thing. And it's, you know, and so is all that's demonstrating is the level of fear that he's coming from. And you can give him all the information in the world. You can tell him exactly, clearly, articulately why. You can show him endless videos or explanations of what a yoni massage is, what happens to it. You can get other women who have had it to come and talk to him and have these conversations, or have him overhear conversations of women talking about how amazing it was and what they experienced and what they felt. But at the end of the day, if he feels challenged by that, and if he's not willing to accept that it's anything other than a completely physical, sexual experience, then you have to allow him to have that, because he's not willing to change. And then you need to decide, does that sit with me? Is that something that I can live with and accept that that's his belief around it? Only you can decide that. And then, you know, okay, if that's his belief and that he's not going to change, so then the conversation needs to be, okay, so that's how you feel about it. This is something that I want to do for myself and I'm going to do it. What does that mean for you? And if he's like, well, that's fucked, I'm out, you're cheating on me, your relationship's over, then again, that's another point you need to sit with and decide. Is that the relationship I want to be in? What is this highlighting that's the bigger issue here? What is this highlighting in terms of where we're not able to come together and understand and come to that mutual place of how is this going to benefit our relationship? Because as I said before, this work doesn't just benefit you, the ripple effect is for everyone. So if you know, and something like this, time is a really beautiful demonstrator, because often, even if I've seen it before, if men do feel terrified of their partner going to do it, but they come to a place of it's like, okay, if this is what you want to do, go ahead. And then they see over time the impact of what happens for that woman as a result. Then it kind of allows him, gives him permission to feel, okay, so this wasn't my worst fucking nightmare. It wasn't what I thought it was. Maybe this is okay. Because when it's all new and right at the beginning, that's when it's heightened. That's when it's full of fear and it's so fueled with negativity and that terror. So it's kind of, no matter what you say or do, is not really going to meet him anywhere, because he's just got all of that around him. So again, it depends on the dynamics of the relationship, the level of the communication, the level of commitment, how much you really want to be there, and how much of this is actually highlighted in the bigger picture, the what really is going on in that relationship, that you're prepared to negotiate or put up with or leave or whatever it may be. So if he, you know, if he's very clearly stated his position and he's not moving from there, the choice is yours. The ball is back in your court, and only you know the right step from there, really. Another question: what a yoni massage webinar? Yoni massage. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, and that's the most important thing. That's what I say. So many modalities, especially when it comes to spirituality, they have a lot of mystery around them. There's a lot of you'll see when you get there. Just feel if it's the right thing for you, and that's not okay with yoni massage. It has to be 100% exposed. It has to be 100% detailed. This is what you want to expect, because you are dealing with sexuality. We live in a world where sexuality is not okay, where it's laced with trauma, where it's laced with abuse, being taken advantage of, and being misused. So it's really important that women know exactly what they're walking into. I've experienced it with myself years ago. I was talking about this with a friend last night. I went into a session where I thought I was having a yoni massage, and what I thought I understood what yoni massage was from my perspective, and that's not what happened. And it completely threw me and really caused some fucking intense feelings of uncomfortability, uncertainty, and I'm not going to say trauma, but it was just it really threw me because it wasn't what I expected. And I left feeling very unsure about the whole thing. And that was purely because I didn't know what was happening. He explained it in the moment, but I was like, well, that's not what I'm here for. So it's so important with Yoni Massage that you know exactly what's going to happen for that 3 hours or 2 hours that you are with a practitioner. You know what is going to feel every single minute of that time. Sure, there's some ways and flows and uncertainties in it, and you know it could, because it goes with what you need, and there might be not as much internal work because you needed more external, or you might have a lot of emotions and tears and fears and yells and screams and stuff, and that takes up a lot of the space. So there is flow to it, but the shell, the structure is solid, and you need to know exactly what that's going to be before you step into that, as does your partner, because that's where a lot of his fear is going to be put to rest. So I hope that's answered your 2 questions. And I think the most important thing to realize here is that when you get this response from a male partner, it's highlighting a bigger issue. That's the most important thing here. It's not actually about yoni massage. It's highlighting something that's much bigger. And whether or not you're willing to look at that together, that's your call. But a lot of women then accept that because they don't go forward and have a massage. They don't go forward and become a practitioner because they just accept that, okay, I'm not prepared to deal with the actual bigger issue here, or I'm not prepared to make the changes that need to happen for our relationship to get to the point where that is okay. And whether they stay in that relationship or leave in that relationship, either or, it's irrelevant. It's what is the bigger picture here, and what do you actually want as a woman? Going back to why you want to do this work in the first place. Why do you want to have a massage? Or why do you want to become a practitioner of such an incredibly powerful modality? The why is so important. Like, the why is everything. The why is everything. And if that why is important enough to you, nothing else matters. If that why is the motivation that gets you up every day, nothing else matters. And it's your trust in that, and it's your conviction with that that dictates where you go with this, how you negotiate this conversation with your partner. Because if you're at a point in your life where you realize you feel the call to have a yoni massage, and you can feel why, and you know what that's going to do for you and how that's going to help you step up and what you want to experience, then you need to decide how committed to that are you. How important actually is that to you, and how important is your relationship to you? The way that it's functioning, and where do you want it to be functioning? So I think the key points of this is remembering he is coming from a place of fear. Masked with anger and all of the rest, he's coming from a place of fear. He's coming from a place of subconscious beliefs. He's not consciously choosing to react this way. It's subconscious. Fear, subconscious beliefs. It's a highlighter for the bigger picture of what's really happening in the dynamic of your relationship. You need to be clear on what yoni massage is and why you want to do it. And you have to go into this with compassion. Compassion for him and his process around it, and compassion for yourself. Those, I think, are the 5 absolute key things that you really need to go into that. And then that will dictate what to say to him. What are you most afraid of if I do this? What's that going to mean for our relationship? And really allow him space within that to be vulnerable, and him space to meet his fear around that. Okay, I've talked for a long time. Thank you so much. I hope that has given you some highlight. Maybe it's just made you feel really fucking uncomfortable and you're really not liking me right now, and that's totally okay as well. Yeah, I'm getting anxiety just thinking about the conversation. Absolutely. That's it. That is everything. That's the vulnerability. That's the fear right there. That anxiety of that conversation is everything, you know, and that's what's highlighting it all for you. So run with it, because if it wasn't there, you wouldn't be ready to go there and do this. I've been surprised by my husband's response. Exactly. Sometimes we build this up and we get there and we're like, and he's like, oh yeah, sweet. You're like, what? Which again can be a highlighter for your relationship wasn't quite on the dynamic that you thought it was. You thought that there was more or less space for vulnerability than what there actually is, and he's totally okay with it. And sure, that's fine, whatever. Communication is so fucking important in relationships. Communication, like every kind of relationship, teacher, student, friends, girlfriends, husbands, wives, everything. Communication is everything. We're not fucking mind readers. Some of us are, but not really. We're not mind readers. Communication is everything. And you just, yeah, I think the most important thing is to be really, 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 really fucking honest with yourself, because we're really good at lying to ourselves. A lot of women have mastered that tool a long time ago. So I hope this has answered some questions. Maybe it has brought up some fears. Maybe it has been really confronting, or I don't use this word a lot, but maybe it's been really fucking triggering for you. And if it has, good, because it means you're ready, and it means that there's shit that needs to change, and it means that I've done my job. So thank you, beautiful women, for being here. Thank you to all the gorgeous women who have signed up and will get the recording. I do want to offer you an amazing little thank you. On next Tuesday, the 21st, is the beginning of the next 12-week immersion, which some of you gorgeous women are in, and some of you have done it before. I want to give you 40% off just for the next 24 hours. If you've been umming and ahhing and hesitating and not sure, and you just, I just really want every woman to have the space to do this work for herself, and I don't want there to be any blockages to that. So for coming along, for getting the recording, I want to give you 40% off just for the next 24 hours if you want to jump on board, and the code is 40webinar to go and be able to do that with me. I will put in the comments the link that you can jump on and book. No, that's not the right link. And you can jump on board and join us for starting on Tuesday at 6 p.m. Queensland time, and it's every week, and we do all kinds of things and have all kinds of fun and meet all kinds of fear and get really fucking powerful in our sexuality. So I'd love to have you there. Thank you so much for being here, beautiful women. Mwah. Have a wonderful day wherever you are, and go and have some really fucking uncomfortable conversations. Bye.